Hello everyone, today's topic is Mental Health Act 1987. This is the act which is basically made for the mentally ill patient or protecting the rights of mentally ill patients by the government of India. So, this act replaced the Indian Non-Ansik Act of 1912. So, Indian Non-Ansik Act is actually the first act in India which is introduced for the mentally ill patients in 1912. Now, this act is introduced in Rajya Sabha in 1981 and it became an act in 1987. But it came into effect in all states of India in April 1993. Means this act was passed. Act was passed in 1987, but when it come into effect in April 1993. So what are the main objectives of this act? First objective is to regulate admission into psychiatric hospitals and psychiatric nursing homes. So what it will do? It will help the patients how they will get admission in the psychiatric hospitals or nursing homes. The law is made for those admissions. To protect society from the presence of mentally ill person. So sometimes the mentally ill person have dangerous effect to the society. They break the rules of the society. In that case, what the society will take the actions, what are the norms and for that particular time. So these all protected society rules and regulations are also made in under this act. To protect citizens from being detained in psychiatric hospitals or nursing homes without significant cause, means without a proper cause. Sometimes in like in some cases from the family somebody is proven that this is having some mental problem to this person, and they will detain that person in the psychiatric hospitals to prevent that kind of detention. So nobody without a particular cause, they will not be admitted in the psychiatric hospitals or detained in the psychiatric hospitals. To regulate maintenance charges. So what is maintenance charges? Maintenance charges is actually the charges which is used for the patient care during their hospital stay, during the psychiatric hospital stay. So if the for example, if any patient is admitted in the psychiatric hospital, on the time of admission the relatives are there, they spended the money, but afterwards or either it is not there. So who will take care of the charges, which medication, their food, their maintenance, everything? Who will be responsible for maintaining all the things? All these guidelines are made in this act. To provide facilities for establishing guardianship of mentally ill persons. So sometimes the mentally ill person having less mental ability, so they will not able to justify their things, like they need guardians for themselves. Like if they are having a property, if they are having any authority, but they are not able to maintain that property, or they are not able to maintain their account, but they are having some amount in that account. So who will take care of that things? Or if the patient needs care, so who will take care of that patient? So all things would be written under this act. To establish center and state authorities for mental health services. So they also establish the state level as well as center level mental health services. To regulate the power of government for establishing, licensing and controlling psychiatric hospitals and nursing homes. So what they will do? They regulate the power of government. They tell the government, like the state government also, so how you will establish a psychiatric hospital, how you will get a license to establish a psychiatric hospital, who will control the psychiatric hospital or nursing homes. To provide legal aid to mentally ill persons at state actions in certain cases. In certain cases, if the legal cases are there, legal aid is required for the person, mentally ill person, so how that will be provided to that persons. So now we are moving to the chapters. In this Mental Health Act is divided into the chapters. In all the chapters they are dealing with the particular things. So first chapter is basically for the preliminary definitions, which all the definitions which are included in this act, how we will deal with that particular conditions. So all the definitions are in this act. So first is mentally ill person. This definitions defines you to whom we will tell that this is the mentally ill person. We can't say mentally ill person to anybody. So a person who is in a need of treatment by the reason of any mental disorder and other than mental retardation. Means mental retardation patients are not considered as a mentally ill patient. They are mentally retarded but they are not mentally ill. So those persons who are having a mental disorder, so for those persons only we can use the word that is mental illness, that is mentally ill person. Second is mentally ill prisoner. Mentally ill prisoner. A mentally ill prisoner for those detention in or removal to a psychiatric hospital, psychiatric nursing home, jail or other place of a safe custody and order referred to in section 30 has been made. Means to whom we will say it is a mentally ill prisoner for those who need jail or safe custody but they are mentally ill or they are detained in a psychiatric hospital or in a jail but they need safe custody and who committed some crime. For those people we are saying these are the mentally ill prisoners. Next is cost of maintenance. Cost of maintenance means in relation to a mentally ill person admitted in psychiatric hospitals or psychiatric nursing homes shall means the cost of such item as the state government may be journal or special order specify in this bill. Means I already explained you what is the cost of maintenance. Means what are the maintenance charges which the government has to pay to particular psychiatric setting for the treatment of the mentally ill person, that is known as the cost of maintenance. Next is district court. District court means any area for which there is a civil district court, that court and in any order area of a principal civil court of original jurisdiction and includes any other civil court notified by the state government. Means district court is a court which is established as a civil court in a particular area for the mentally ill persons, that is known as a district court. For the matters of mentally ill person they are dealing. Next is inspecting officer. A person authorized by the state government or by the licensing authority to inspect any psychiatric hospital or psychiatric nursing home, that person is known as inspecting officer. Next is license. To whom we can say it's a license. Means a license guaranteed under section 8. Like we need a license, actually it is a license basically for the psychiatric setting. When we want to establish any psychiatric hospital, psychiatric nursing home, we need to take a license from the government, state government and the central government. That is the license under section 8. Licensee, we can say licensee, the means the holder of a license, to which person the license is given, that person is known as licensee. Licensed psychiatric hospital. A psychiatric hospital or psychiatric nursing home, as the case may be, licensed or deemed to be licensed under this act. Licensed psychiatric hospital which is licensed under this act, under section 8, that is known as licensed hospital. Licensing authority, to whom we are having this authority, such officer or authority as may be specified by the state governments to be licensed authority for the purpose of this act, that is known as licensing authority. Those having authority, that officer is having authority to make a license after inspecting that hospital condition, their facilities, everything. Next is medical officer. So who is the medical officer in this condition? In according to this act, the graduated medical officer in the service of government and included a medical practitioner declared by a journal or special order of the state government. Means the person who is having a certificate of medical practitioner declared by a journal or special order by the state government, that is known as the medical officer. Next definition is of minor. Who is minor? Who is not completed the age of 18 years. Next is psychiatrist. Who is psychiatrist? A medical practitioner possesses a postgraduate degree or diploma in psychiatric specialty by the recognized medical council constituted under the Indian Medical Council 1956. We can consider that person as a psychiatrist. Next is reception order. Means a order made under the provision of this act for the admission and detention of a mentally ill person related to the mentally ill person by blood, marriage or adoption. Means what is reception order? Reception order is an order which is possession by this act for the admission and detention of mentally ill person. It may be related to the mentally ill person, the person who is want that patient would be admitted, psychiatric patient would be admitted in the psychiatric hospital. It may be by the blood it is related, or by marriage or by adoption. Anyone can go and take that person which is having a mental illness to the hospital, and they will tell the hospital people that this person needs admission. If the medical officers will identify that actually he is a sufferer, he is having a problem, then they will decide and they will admit the person. Next is temporary treatment order. A temporary treatment order passed by a magistrate under the section 20 or 21 means temporary treatment orders. This order is passed by the magistrate, and for it's a, by the name itself it is denoting their particular term, that is temporary treatment order. Temporary means for some duration of time. After that the hospital people have to go back to the magistrate and tell the condition of the patient in return and justify why they need more time to be retained in the hospital, or either they will be discharged. Outdated definitions are changed based on the new concepts and the knowledge. In this, like in the previous act, like we in the starting we studied the one act named as Indian Lunatic Act. In that act also there are some definition that is termed here as a old definition, and the new terms are there which is considering in this act. First is lunatic people or lunatic person, but now we can't say any mentally ill person as a lunatic person. Now we are saying mentally ill person. Next is lunatic asylums, but now we are not telling any hospitals as asylum, we are telling psychiatric hospitals. Criminal lunatic prisoners, now we are telling mentally ill prisoners. Here we are completing with the first chapters and with all the definitions. Now we are moving to the second chapter of this act, which is dealing with the mentally ill authority. What is mental health authority? So mental health authority is a central authority established by a center or a state government to regulate, develop, direct and coordinate the mental health services under the central government. These authorities have the jurisdiction to renew or cancel the license. So, what is this authority? Mental health authority. This is the authority which is established by the central government or a state government to the hospitals to regulate, develop, coordinate for the services of mentally ill persons, and they are having a authority of renewal also of the license and issuing the license, and they can cancel the license also if the hospital standards are not maintained. So this is, now we are moving to the third chapter, psychiatric hospitals and psychiatric nursing homes. This is as you are able to see in the picture, this chapter deals with the establishment of separate psychiatric hospitals and nursing homes for the admission, treatment and care of a mentally ill person. So what it means? It means now we are having a different setting for psychiatric hospitals, psychiatric nursing homes. Next, fourth chapter. In fourth chapter they are talk about the admission, detention in psychiatric hospital or psychiatric nursing homes on different types. First is admission on voluntary basis. Admission on voluntary basis means any person who consider himself to be mentally ill and wish to be admitted to the psychiatric hospital may apply to the medical officer in charge. If he is minor, the guardian has to make the application on his behalf. If medical officer in charge is satisfied that he needs treatment, that person should be admitted. This is the one type of admission in the psychiatric setting, that is the admission on voluntary basis. The patient will come to you in the psychiatric hospital and they will tell you, I am having this problem, I want to be admitted in this hospital for the treatment. Second type of admission is admission under special circumstances. The relatives or friends can take such type of patients to the medical officer. The medical officer in charge can admit these patients but should be supported by 2 medical certificates. Means on the time of admissions they need 2 certificates. For example, if any relative of a patient or their friends, they took any patient to your setting, first you have to report to medical officer. They will inspect whether it's a genuine patient or not. If they satisfied, they will discuss with another medical officer also. They 2 person will justify that thing in papers, and then that person would be admitted to that particular hospital. That is that second type of admission, admission under special circumstances. Third is temporary treatment order. We already talked about this thing, that is temporary treatment order, which is passed by the magistrate. We will study. It is issued by a magistrate of the area. It is done in such cases who is admitted when there is a risk to their own life or to others. This order is valid for the 6 months. Means what is temporary treatment order? Temporary treatment order is an order which is passed by the magistrate for those patients who having a risk for themselves or for others also. So in that case, if they are not having any relatives, so then also we take to the magistrate, we will take the proper orders, we will retain the patient in the hospital for the treatment. But it is valid for 6 months. After 6 months, we have to renew the order if we want to continue the patient treatment in the hospital. Next is reception order. On application, in this we are having other things also. First thing is on application. The relatives can apply to the magistrate in written, supported by 2 medical certificates for admission of a mentally ill person. No person who is minor or has been seen the medically ill patient within the 14 days shall make the application. The medical officer can extend inpatient treatment to more than 6 months by making such application to the magistrate. Means this reception order also, it's a kind of order which is passed by the magistrate in the written form, which is documented with the support of 2 medical officer certificates, and the person should be retained in the hospital for 6 months. After 6 months they need renewal also. Next is the second type is on production before the magistrate. Means the person is not in the condition that we will take the patient to the magistrate. So in that condition, in the starting onwards, if any person come to you, how we will tackle for those patients? Mentally ill patient exhibiting violent behavior, creating nuisance in or dangerous to the society, can be detained by the police officer and produced in court within the 24 hours of their detention, supported by 2 medical certificates. Means this is the example, like sometime roadside we are saying the person who is mental condition is not stable, they are roaming here and there and they are creating nuisance in the society. So what the police people will do, they will took the person to the nearest psychiatric hospital. So they will, like it may be, for example, it happen in the nights. So what is we can't give the treatment to the patient, no, we have to treat the patient. So we will take the admission on that time, but in the morning, within the 24 hours, that police officer have to go to the magistrate with the documents of that particular patient from the medical officer, that this is the person, this needs treatment, this is founded here in this place, creating nuisance, whatever it is the issue, and that procedure is known as, means before, if the person is not able to go to the magistrate, then also we will detain, we will treat the patient. Afterward we have to show to the magistrate and take proper orders for their treatment. Next is admission in emergencies. If the mentally ill patient is in danger and the medical officer thinks such type of patient may be admitted, but within 72 hours they have to be produced to the magistrate, and if he cannot be shifted to the magistrate, is asked to come to the psychiatric hospital and see the patient and examine the patient and give the reception order. Admission under emergency also having a same motive, that we have to take the admission on the voluntary basis or special circumstances, but we have within the 72 hours we have to take the reception order from the magistrate. If we are able to took the patient to the magistrate, then we can do the same, otherwise we will have to request the magistrate to come to the hospital and inspect the patient. Next is miscellaneous, that is, there is a provision for the admitting the mentally ill patient on humanitarian ground, or they can be admitted for observation also in some situations. So this is our 4th chapter, admission. Next is 5th chapter. Chapter 5 deals with the inspection, discharge, leave or absence and removal of mentally ill patient. So in 4th chapter we talk about the admission processes, different types of admission. In 5th chapter we will take about the discharge procedure. So first type of discharge is discharge of patient admitted on voluntary basis. Medical officer in charge of psychiatric hospital on recommendation from 2 medical practitioners, preferably a psychiatrist, can have a direction for the discharge. They can be discharged if the medical officer will feel that the person is now fit for discharge. Second is discharge of patient admitted under special circumstances. The relatives can require to furnish a bond with or without sureties, along with an undertaking that the mentally ill person shall be prevented from causing harm to himself or herself or to the others also. If the relatives are there, they are admitted on the special circumstances, admission is there. So what on the time of discharge, what the legal procedure is there, that the mentally ill person, their relatives have to make a consent that the mentally ill person they will take care, and they will the person will not injure himself or herself or not to the others also. Next is discharge of patient admitted on reception order. An applicant who feels that the patient has recovered from illness make an application for the discharge to the magistrate. So a certificate should accompany from the doctor, medical officer. If the magistrate deems fit, he feels that the person is now fit, and they will issue a discharge order simply. Next is leave of absence. Means in this what will happen, on application by a relative to the medical officer in charge and bond duly signed stated that the patient will be taken proper care and prevented from injury to herself or himself or to the others during their leave duration. It is for the particular duration, that is maximum for 60 days. Commonly the leave is for 30 days. It will be extended up to the 60 days, not more than that. After that, if during that period the patient will create any nuisance in the home environment, then they also bring to the hospital. Otherwise, after 60 days, what is their period completed, then they have to report to the hospital. Next is chapter 6. Chapter 6 deals with the judicial inquisition. What is this? It deals with the judicial inquiry regarding mentally ill person possessing property, their custody and management of property. Means if the mentally ill person is having any property with them on her name or his name, so who will take care of that? According to this section 54 bracket 1, a guardian may be appointed by the court of law on behalf of the aged mentally ill person incapable of looking after herself or their property. So the court will appoint one particular guardian for that. What the guardian have to do, they have to take care of their property, but they are not having a right to sell the property or do anything with that property. They have to timely report to the court about what he is doing. Next is chapter 7. But under chapter 7, liability to meet the cost of maintenance of mentally ill person is discussed. Under section 78, when a mentally ill patient is detained as an inpatient and does not have property to bear the cost of treatment, so in such cases his expenses shall be borne by the government, state government or by the central government. Means under this act they are stating that the cost of maintenance, if the patient is not having money to be treated in the hospital, then all the amount should be taken care by the government. They are telling in this chapter. Now we are moving to the 8th chapter. In 8th chapter, protection of human rights of mentally ill person are discussed. According to this act, no mentally ill person under treatment shall be subjected to be mechanically restrained. We can now legally restrain any person who is mentally ill. Mechanical restraint is now banned according to this act. No mentally ill person under treatment shall be used for the purpose of research unless such person being a voluntary person. Means if the person is in the condition that they will sign a consent, informed consent that okay, I will be a part of this research, you can take my sample for the research purpose or I will be included in research, then only you can take the person included in research, otherwise you can't. No letter or communication sent by or to the mentally ill person under treatment shall be interrupted or detained or destroyed. We can't interrupt, we can't detain, we can't destroy any documentation if they are making with their relatives. Now we are moving to the chapter 9. In chapter 9 they are discussed penalties and procedures. It deals with the procedures to be followed for the establishment and maintenance of psychiatric hospitals and nursing homes. So what are that? Penalties can be relatively severe except for the some condition converting them, like Article of 6(1) of Mental Health Act prohibit the running of psychiatric hospitals, psychiatric nursing home without license. If we are not having license to run a psychiatric hospital, we can't run a psychiatric hospital or psychiatric nursing home. Under Article 11(1)(b) says that the licensing authority can revoke the license if the maintenance of the house is being carried out in a manner that is not proper. If they are not satisfied with the physical layout, if they are not satisfied with the patient treatment, they can revoke the license anytime. Now we are moving to the last chapter, that is chapter 10. In this the other miscellaneous things they discuss, that for example, conduct of medical officer in charge of the hospital, how they have to work, prepare the reports of modulus period of the time, that is every 6 months, that have to send to the higher authority, that this is the status of last 6 months. The medical officer in charge is responsible for supply of all requisites to the psychiatric hospital. They are the overall in charge, they are responsible for all the things. Now we will summarize the topic. In summarization, we will in this chapter what we discussed. We discussed about the various 10 chapters which is included in this Mental Health Act 1987. In all these chapters, like in first chapter they discussed about the preliminary definitions. In second chapter they moved to the next part, other admission, discharge, everything we discussed in this chapter. According to this chapter discussion only, we have to set a psychiatric setting. If we want to set any psychiatric setting, if we want to manage the psychiatric patients, we have to take admissions under this act only. We can make the discharge under this act only. Thank you so much.